Diane? That's a great question. Diane is a gray fox that one of our members has grown an affinity for. Diane, and she was named Diane by our member because she would always show up on our member's property with her mate, who she aptly named Jack. And Jack and Diane, they would raise their kits on our member's property, and they both brought both our member and her husband, years of joy, photographing them, watching them play. It was just such a beautiful experience for our members. And our member sent me a bunch of photos of Diane, and I had one of them framed. This one here, that's Diane, and Diane right now doesn't look as healthy as she does in this photo, sadly. So Diane, as I mentioned, has been a frequent visitor at our member's property. And just a couple of weeks ago, Diane showed up with a horrific injury. The images show a very mangled leg, a paw that looks severely injured. And it is our thought that she was caught in a leg hold trap. Two local veterinarians, as well as a wildlife rehabilitator who has worked with foxes, they all agree that the injuries do look like they could have been caused by a leg hold trap. And what happens when an animal is caught in a leg hold trap, foxes, their paws and their legs, minus the fur, are very fragile. They've got tiny little paws and very bony legs. And when that trap closes on their limb with such force, and then they remain there, immobilized for potentially days, the animal, in this case Diane, they struggle violently against the trap. They thrash, they lunge, they bite at the trap, they bite at their limbs if their paw goes numb from being in the trap, to free themselves. And in doing this, they have the ability to dislodge muscle and skin and tissue that could cause injuries, not just to the localized site of where the trap closed, but to all other areas of that particular limb is what we're seeing with Diane. So this trap here is a leg hold trap, and this particular size leg hold trap would be used to catch the trapper's intended victim, a gray fox or a red fox. But there are traps that are even bigger than this, bigger leg hold traps that might be set, let's say, for a coyote that could very easily trap a fox or other smaller animal with larger jaws. But a trap like this would be set really anywhere in Vermont. You can set them on public lands, national wildlife refuges, and the trap would have some kind of bait around it or lures. Some of the bait they might use is cat food. They might use scent lures. For bobcats, they even use visual lures, so they might have a string attached to a branch with a feather dangling. We know that cats are visual hunters. And so the unsuspecting hungry animal will come over to the trap and inspect it, mostly with their paw. Or if an animal happens to be walking over the trap, they can also get their back leg trapped. And just to show you the force of these traps, and this is, again, a medium-sized leg hold trap. The animal steps on the pan. This is called the pan here. And you'll see the trap close on the pen, but just imagine the pen being an animal's paw. So that right there is likely what happened to Diane. And the animal remains in this leg hold trap for potentially days until the trapper comes back. So this right here is a leg hold trap, and it pretty much speaks for itself. And there was another fox a couple years ago in Hyde Park who was caught in a leg hold trap. And we know for a fact that that fox was caught in a leg hold trap because she was able to unanchor the trap from the ground, and she was dragging that leg hold trap around with her for probably 7 days before we were notified, and she was successfully captured and later euthanized because her injuries were so severe. And that fox, in looking at her leg, looks very similar to Diane's leg. I think just because we did something hundreds of years ago as a culture here in Vermont and across the country, it's not a prescription for what is humane and necessary and ethical going forward in a world where we are acknowledging the suffering of animals. And in addition to that, there is no legitimate reason to be using these devices for any purpose. So we ask people to get involved, to research, just Google leghold trap, and you can see for yourself the horrific injuries that these traps inflict, and to get involved with Protect Our Wildlife and other local Vermont wildlife advocacy organizations.